Assalamu alaikum, this is Aisha. In this video, we are going to talk about conditional type 3. We will talk about the function, the format, and we will practice some exercises. Let's start with the functions first. The function of the conditional type 3, it refers to the past, and the result did not happen in the past because the condition was not possible at that time. Let's see an example to explain this function. If I say, if I had found her address, I would have sent her an invitation. So, what is reality? Reality in the past, I did not find her address last week, which happened really in reality in the past. So, what is the result? I did not send her an invitation again in the past. So, let's make it clearer. Something happened really in the past. Now, I come now and imagine that I change everything but in my imagination. I imagine the opposite of the reality. So, something happened, I imagine that it did not happen. Or something did not happen, I imagine that it happened. Shifting from reality to imagination requires also change in the tense. So, if it is already in the past, shift it to imagination, again you need more past, that is past perfect. That is what we are using in conditional type 3. So, let's move now to the format. You have if you had driven. Had driven is past perfect. Slowly, you would not have had an accident. Let's see the reality. Reality in the past, you did not drive slowly. So, what is the result? You had an accident. Notice that driving slowly happened in the past? No, it did not happen in the past. He did not drive in reality slowly. But I imagine what would happen if you drove slowly. Now, the accident happened in reality? Yes, it happened. Let me now imagine that it did not happen. So, it's opposite of reality. So, the format would be, remember, in the conditional sentences you have two clauses. If clause and the main clause. In if clause, it is marked by if you have the condition. And in the main clause, it has the result. In the if clause, you start with the if, followed by subject, then the past perfect, followed by comma, then you come to the main clause, you have the subject, would, then again you have perfect, but remember it's infinitive because after would, you can't have had. It should be have in the infinitive form. Let's see an example. We say, if clause, main clause. If, it's fixed there. Subject, say you. Verb in the past perfect, of course you should start with had, followed by past participle. Had come early. Don't forget the comma. In the main clause, you start with subject, say you, followed by would, which is fixed, followed by infinitive perfect, which is have past participle, that is have seen him. Now, let's read the sentence. If you had come, you would have, if you had come early, you would have seen him. What is the reality for that? The result, seeing him did not happen because the condition, which is coming early, didn't happen in reality. Let's have some more examples about conditional type 3. If she had taken the bus, she would have arrived on time. The reality is again opposite of all this. She didn't arrive early because the condition, which is taking the bus, did not happen. If it had rained heavier, all the roads would have flooded. Again, something happened in the past, which is raining, and flooding, but it did not happen in reality. The result, flooding, did not happen because raining heavier did not happen. Another example, if you had studied harder, you would have passed the exam. Reality, you did not pass the exam because you did not study hard. Remember that in conditional sentences, you can use other models. So you can say, if it had rained heavier, all the roads would have flooded. Notice here you are using would. You can change it and use another model. You can say could. If it had rained heavier, all the roads could have flooded. It's possible. Grammatically, they are both correct. Conditional type 3 sometimes have implications. Now, when I say, if you had driven more carefully, you would not have had an accident, the implication here is criticism or late advice. You did not drive carefully enough, so you had an accident. Another sentence, if you had saved your money, you could have bought a computer. Again, the implication here is criticism. You didn't save your money, so you couldn't afford a computer. There is another implication. If we had played a little better, we could have won the game. It implies regret. We did not play well, so the result, we did not win the game. Let's see another example. If it had snowed, we could have gone skiing. Again, the implication here is regret. It did not snow, so we could not go skiing. Notice in all these sentences in condition type 3, compare between reality and compare between the sentence which is imaginary. It is opposite. Note that in all conditional sentences, you can change and swap between the clauses. You can start with if clause, so you say, if we had seen him or if we had seen you in Dubai, we would have told you. Now, you can start with the main clause. We would have told you if we had seen you in Dubai. This example is for you. What is the other way that you can say this sentence? If they all had worked together, the party would have been greater. Try to say it in another way, right? The party would have been great if they all had worked together. Remember that in this case, the comma is dropped. Let's now have some practice. I will give you a sentence with 3 choices. Try to choose the correct one. We say, if he had studied. What is the other side? Is it he will pass, or he would pass, or he would have passed? Remember, in the conditional type 3, we have past perfect. In if clause, had studied. So, in the main clause, the answer would be right. He would have passed. Another exercise. If you had asked me, I would have helped you, or I would help you, or I will help you. Remember, conditional type 3, past perfect. Right. I would have helped you. If they had had our address, they, as a postcard, they had written, would write, or would have written. Perfect, perfect. Perfect, would have written. Right. Would you have swum in the sea if, about the sharks, if you would have known, if knew, if had known. Remember, here we are in the if clause, there is no would. So you look for had known, because I have started with the main clause, would you have swum? Note here in conditional type 3 that the contracted form of had is apostrophe D, and the contracted form of would is again apostrophe D. It may be confusing if you find this sentence, if I'd brought my book, I'd have given it to you. So, which one is had and which one is would? Both of them have the same contraction. Remember that if can never come with would in one sentence. If is in one clause and would is in the other clause, they can never come together. So in our sentence, if I'd brought my book, it can never be I would. It must be I had. And in the main clause, I'd have should be I would have given. Note also, if you had smoked, you would have had cancer. I want to add negative form to these two clauses. Now, if you had smoked, where should I add the had, the not? Of course, you should add it to the auxiliary verb, which is in this sentence had. So, not goes to had. You say, if you had not smoked. Now, in the main clause, you have two auxiliary verbs, would and have. Where should you add the not? Is it for would or is it for have? In this case, you add it to the first auxiliary verb, which is would. So, you have, if you had not smoked, you would not have had cancer. Now, this takes us to the forms of the main clause. Let's see the affirmative form, which is subject, would, have, and past participle. Let's see the negative form. It's subject, would, and not is added to would, have, and past participle. The interrogative form, you just switch between subject and would, so you have would, subject, have, past participle. In interrogative negative form, you just add the not to would. So would not, subject, have, past participle. If a clause is fixed, it's subject, had, past participle, start with if. Let's have an example. In the if clause, we have if I had arrived earlier. So in the main clause, in the affirmative form, you have I would have seen him. So subject, would, have, past participle. In the negative form, I would not have seen him, not here, that we add not to would. In the interrogative form, just swap between would and subject. If I had arrived earlier, would I have seen him? And in the interrogative negative, if I had arrived earlier, wouldn't I have seen him? Right. Let's have some more examples about the negative form. And remember, we add not in the if clause to the auxiliary verb had, and in the main clause we add it to would. So you have this example, if you hadn't smoked, you wouldn't have had cancer. Another example, if she hadn't taken the taxi, she would have been late. More examples about interrogative form. What would she have done if she hadn't taken the taxi? Notice here, we start with the question word what, then would, then the subject. What would you have said if I hadn't come? Let's start directly with would. Would they have come if they had got the invitation? Note here in conditional type 3 we have something called inversion. What is inversion? In a sentence like, if I had known about the accident, I would have come immediately. You notice here that we start with if, subject, and had. There is a case where you drop if, swap between subject and had. So you have, had I known about the accident, I would have come immediately. So we drop if, we start with had, then the subject. Of course, grammatically, it's completely correct. Another example, had I met him, of course, it's the same as if I had met him, I would have told him the truth. Hadn't you told me? Note here that we add not very simply to had. Hadn't you told me, I would have done something stupid. We come now to this exercise where you complete the second part. If it had not started raining, try to complete this sentence. Remember, subject would have past participle. It can be, we would not have been wet. Had we gone to a better restaurant, what would happen? We could have had a better dinner. Not here, could. Possible. Another modal. Would the boys have arrived on time if they had taken the school bus? Fine. The police would have caught the murderer if they had arrived earlier. Let's now start with another practice. You have here 5 sentences with the base form of the verbs in both clauses. Take some time, think about these sentences and try to do them. Let me now give you the answer to the first one. If you had studied, you would have passed. The second one. If you had asked me, I would have helped you. Number 3. If we had gone to the cinema, we would have seen Ali. Number 4. If you had spoken English, she would have understood. Number 5. If they had listened to me, we would have been home earlier. Let's have some more practice. Again, you have here some sentences. Take some time and think about them. Okay, let's start now. So for the first one, I write you a postcard if I have your address. If, of course, is in the second part. I would have written if I had had. Number 2. I would have taken part in the contest if I had not broken my leg. Number 3. If it had not started to rain, we would have walked to the museum. Number 4. We swim in here. We would have swum in here if there had not been so many people. And number 5, she take the bus, she not arrive on time. You can start it like this. Had she taken the bus, she would not have arrived. So this is all for today's lesson, but before we leave, let's remember the main points. Remember the format. You have if clause and main clause. In the if clause you have if, subject and past perfect tense, which consists of had plus past participle. And in the main clause you have the subject, would, followed by infinitive perfect, which consists of have followed by past participle. Remember also that you can use other models. So you can say, if I had known, I would have come. And also you can say, if I had known, I could have come. And remember also that you can start with the main clause. So you can say, if we had seen you in Dubai, we would have told you. And you can also say, we would have told you if we had seen you in Dubai. Remember also that the contracted form of had and would is the same, apostrophe D. And also remember that if and would can never come in one clause. Remember also the inversion, that you can say, if I had known. You can also say, had I known. So this is all for today's video. I hope you learned something about conditional type 3. All the best. Goodbye.